3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. May this be good morning or good evening to all of you. Just want to say thank you all for tuning in today to the recap broadcast. Today, our recap will be on the major events of the 90s to 2000s, starting with the election of 1988. The election of 1988 was between the Republicans' choice of George H.W. Bush and the Democrats' choice of Michael Dukakis. For a little background, Michael Dukakis was the governor of Massachusetts, and George H.W. Bush was President Reagan's vice president prior to the election. At the beginning of the election process, Michael Dukakis led by 17 percentage points in the polls. So in return, since his running started off slow, since George H.W. Bush's running started slow, he began to instead move the focus from what he would be doing as president to pointing out the flaws that Dukakis had. The strategy proved to be effective, in which would push Bush into the lead by the summer and eventually winning him the election. Him becoming president at the time meant he would become the figurehead of the American people and making decisions for the entire nations along with Congress and the judicial system, which wouldn't only affect the U.S. but every other nation around. Bush becoming president would mean signing in acts that he believed the American people would want and or need, which leads us to our next topic, Americans with Disabilities Act. The Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law by George H.W. Bush on July 16, 1990. The Americans with Disabilities Act protected people with disabilities from discrimination of any kind. The American with Disabilities Act was also very diverse in its rules. By protecting people with disabilities which were and or were not born with, and or mental or physical, leaving no stone unturned, like people with cancer, HIV, traumatic brain injury, PTSD, mobility disorders. And the greatest thing about the act, in my opinion, is that soldiers returning home from war with missing limbs or PTSD couldn't be discriminated against and forgotten about. This in turn puts us together as a nation. Unexpectedly, the next topic does the same in a more sad way, that being 9/11. 9/11 stands for the four coordinated terrorist attacks that were carried out by the Al-Qaeda on September 11th, 2001. On that day, still early in the morning, Al-Qaeda terrorists carried out attacks against the World Trade Center and the Pentagon in New York. They didn't have the ability to destroy or military, so they went after symbolic monuments instead. They picked the World Trade Center since it symbolized globalization and America's economic power and prosperity, and the Pentagon because it served as a symbol of America's military strength. The attacks killed a total of 2,977 people. And the attacks brought us together as a nation and lit a collective rage among everyone. This is another transition. And after being brought together through sorrow, it soon became an indescribable rage in everyone in America. That rage brings us to our next topic, the invasion of Afghanistan. It starts after the massacre and destruction of 9/11. The collective rage that people had for the terrorists launched the American-led war against terrorism, or eyes first landed on the Al-Qaeda terrorist group that was working with the Taliban in Afghanistan. British and American forces worked together to stop the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and locate the leader, Osama bin Laden. They would locate Osama bin Laden in the Tora Bora cave, in which a battle would take place for 2 weeks. Unfortunately, Osama bin Laden would get away until 2011, in which he was shot and killed by American forces. And that concludes today's 90s through 2000s recap. These four major events, I think, summarize this time period very well, but it doesn't even crack the surface for all that it was done. For example, or commercial today. Microsoft. First of all, what is Microsoft? Let me tell you. Microsoft is a computer software company and actually the biggest in the world. Co-created in 1975 by Bill Gates and Paul Allen. What makes Microsoft so popular, you may ask? It's their personal computers and advanced technology that really outshines the others and helps them stand out from the others. Personal computers and advanced technology? That sounds like it's too good to be true. Fear not, you aren't dreaming. Microsoft has made personal computers so that any work, for example, any work you haven't done or finished at the office can be finished at home. Or if you've already done that, you could browse the internet and do whatever you like. So please come by a Microsoft computer today, starting at $150 for 4K and $200 for 8K. And the commercial I chose for today's podcast was so that even though the 90s and 2000s can be overshadowed by the bad moments, the good things that have happened and the strides we made toward power in the future is incredible. Like, for example, Microsoft. I want y'all to feel how vast the human mind is through its thinking and its accomplishments and what we can achieve through it. Thank you.